also have a narration that says that in the dawah of the Qa'im is a sunnah from Ayub or Job, alayhi salam.
Yes.
And then it says, and the sunnah that is in the dawah of Job that's found in the Qa'im is relief after tribulation. Al-faraj ba'd al-balwa, right?
Yes.
So relief after the tragedy or after the trial, the tribulation that befalls. And so if we examine that statement and we look at the story of Job alayhi salam to kind of know what to expect or to understand how does it relate to this time and the time of the Qa'im, we find that the story of Job is mentioned in the Bible, and it's also mentioned in the narrations of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad in great detail.
Yes.
Job is obviously one of those prophets that his name was mentioned in the Quran, but the story itself, the Quran doesn't go into much detail concerning it, at least the version of the Quran that we have today. And so in the Bible, there is this man. He's a prophet of God, according to Muslims. He's very rich. He has thousands upon thousands of sheep. He has thousands upon thousands of camels and other livestock. And he has a lot of servants who help him with maintaining and taking care of the sheep and the camels and the livestock. So obviously he's a man who's very rich. The Bible says that he has a lot of influence in the area that he was at. For that reason, some people actually think that he might have been a ruler because there was nobody that was richer or more well off than Job himself. And so it's unclear. It doesn't explicitly state that he was a leader or a ruler, but the people, some scholars have tended to think that that was the case. In any condition, it is clear that he was a man of great influence, and the narrations of Muhammad and the family of Muhammad in the Quran place him as being a prophet, a messenger from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so perhaps he was a messenger that had a role in leadership, much like David or Solomon or Joseph or some of the other prophets and messengers that had come in their time. And essentially in the story, Job is always praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he's always mindful of God, and he's always thanking God for the blessings which he has. And one of the blessings too which he has is that he has 7 sons, and he has some daughters, and they are constantly having these great feasts and celebrations. It's actually mentioned that they would celebrate their birthdays. They would have a gigantic birthday party where they would, celebrate and have feasts, and there would be all kinds of things that were going on. And Job would constantly seek forgiveness for them and would purify them after these great celebrations. And that's an interesting note, because it's not clear why it is that Job felt like his sons were disbelieving in God after the festivities, but the Bible says that he has to purify them afterwards, and he seeks forgiveness from God for his sons, and that's directly after they are celebrating their birthday and having these gigantic feasts. Nonetheless, they're well off. They're good. They don't need anything in life. They're in a good state, and Job is happy. He has a beautiful wife. He has many sons and children. He has lots of livestock, and he's in good health, and he has great property, meadows, and all kinds of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not in need and he's thankful of God. And one day, God is praising Job amongst the angels and, talking about how such a righteous servant he has in Job. Look, I've given him so many things and Job is constantly thanking me for all of these things that, that he has. So what a good servant, even though he's rich and he has everything that he needs, he still recognizes that he needs me. He's poor to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, somebody gets annoyed at that and they hear it and it just doesn't set right with him. And that's Iblis, Satan, Lucifer, Lanatullah alayhi. He just can't take it. He can't handle it. And he decides that, he just cannot hold these thoughts in his chest anymore. He has to speak up, and he does. And he says that, God, the only reason why he is praising you is because you have given him everything. Why don't you just take some of this stuff away and see if he does not curse you instead, okay? So he kind of makes the case. This is why Iblis, Lanatullah alayhi, is kind of thought of in Judaism to be this prosecutor angel. He's amongst the angels, he's talking to God, but he's constantly making the case why mankind is bad. And then in this particular incident, here's God, he's with the angels, and there are angels that are defending Job, and then there's this prosecutor angel that really wants to make the case that that Job is not a true believer, but he's one of those people that worship God upon a letter, as it's described in the Holy Quran. Like he's a worshiper of the good times. When things are good, he's in a good state of mind. And we have many believers like that are condemned by God in the narrations and in the Quran, that they're only with the messenger when things are good, or with God when things are good. But God forbid if they get tried or a tribulation befalls them or their family members or something like this, or their children, they disbelieve, right? And they say, why has this tragedy befallen us? So that's the case that Iblis is trying to make. He's trying to say that Job is one of these individuals. And so, God goes ahead and grants him his request to gather evidence against Job and to build his case against him. And he allows him to, try Job. And he gives Satan authority over all things that belong to Job except for Job himself.